Hi everyone, it's me, Pauline. I'm doing a painting in Peter's loose watercolor style. This is the reference photo and then just a very quick sketch, just a little bit of outline, not much. And here's a picture of the sketch, very faint. First thing I do is I dampen all my paints in my palette and then I wet my paper thoroughly with lots of water, front and back, and then I surface dry it. Leave it down so that the underside is still damp, but the surface is dry to the touch. With a big puddle of rich paint using Prussian blue and a little bit of burnt sienna to tone it down, I make large, loose strokes in the top left corner for the sky. This is going to spread because of the wet underside of the paper. So as we go along, I'm just going to tell you briefly what I'm doing. Once I have that washed down, I'm going to get clean water on my brush and not paint over the area that's already painted, but paint beside it to try to drag some of the paint. So the paint will follow the water, and you will end up with a kind of a graded wash that'll be very loose. Then the next thing I'm going to do is increase the intensity of that cloudy sky in the background. So I'm just going to mix up a little bit more burnt sienna and Prussian blue in a rich mixture and add that on the top. Once that's done and the paint is starting to spread, what I will do is take a clean, dry paper towel and soak up in a kind of a staggered kind of way to make it look like there's some splashes in the sky. At this stage, I added a few little droplets with my sprayer, just to get some texture in the sky, like splashes coming up. Then using burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, I mixed another rich puddle of paint and just kind of loosely put on some marks for the rocks. And when this was down and a little bit dry, I started using a credit card to squeeze out the paint. You have to press and slant your credit card and pull the paint out. Then once that was done, I added some more splashes. I'm trying to get the right effect in the sky here, so it's working pretty well. But then because I realized that it was going to keep spreading, I needed to stop the spreading and freeze it. So I used a hair dryer to stop the water droplets from spreading and dry the surface of the paper. And then I thought, well, I might as well tape it down too to keep it from buckling and let it dry flat. Then, using the same mixture as the sky with a little bit more burnt sienna for a slightly greener hue, I paint sweeping upward strokes for the waves in the water. This is kind of just be loose and just kind of just bring them up into like a sweeping motion, and then the next thing to do is you want to make that look like water, right? So what you do is you clean your brush really well and then make it wet, clean, not soaking wet, but damp, pretty wet. And then just sweep the brush with the water in between your paint strokes, and that will make it all run and kind of resemble a wave action. Then mixing up a little bit more paint for just a stronger mixture still. Just go in a little bit and deepen the underside of those waves. And maybe add a couple more little strokes. These are all going to soften and spread because of the dampness underneath the paper. And then just using clean water, just kind of change the shape at the top of the waves up there. So it shouldn't be so flat. So just make it a little bit irregular so that we have the appearance of water splashing and waves happening. Next, time to do the trees. So using the same paint, Prussian blue and burnt sienna, with a bit more burnt sienna that makes more of a green color. Just come in with some big strokes. I'm using mostly big brushes for this to do some, make some branches for the tree. I have a couple of trees there. You can put as many as you want, of course. Then just making light strokes and maybe with clean water spreading a little bit. Then I'm using a brush with a fine point and the same mixture of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue that you used for the rocks. Just pick up a little bit of paint with this fine brush and make some trunks in the trees and a few little branches. I'm not sure I told you what paints were in that mixture before, but in the rock mixture, it is burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Notice how the paint continues to move in both the waves and the sky because of the dampness underneath on the underside of the paper. This is a really useful thing to have your paper wet on both sides because you can continue to make marks and they aren't hard edged. They soften a little bit and you can continue to make them even softer. So here I'm just using the same mixture, a little bit more burnt sienna to make more of a green, and just accentuating the cracks in the rocks and using a little bit of negative painting to outline them. So with negative painting, you could either paint a stroke of water and then add darker paint along the dry edge bleeding into the wet edge, or you can put a stroke of paint down. If your paper is wet underneath, you can put a stroke of dark paint down and then go beside it to spread it out with clean water. So that's what negative painting is basically. Not hard, very easy, but hard to do really nicely, yes, of course. So basically what negative painting is, it's creating a dark line and then washing it out as in a graded wash, which is the same thing as you did up at the top in the sky, but you wash it out in a graded way using water to make a dark edge against a lighter edge to accentuate the shape of something. I think maybe what I might do is do some small videos just demonstrating techniques like that, like negative painting and graded washes. Just making a little crack in the rock. You can also use a palette knife. So the earlier scraping I did on the rocks was with the edge of a credit card, but you can use a palette knife also to press and scrape color out. So the trees, there's still a little bit of dampness in the trees, so the ability to squeeze out what look like some branches. Also with the palette knife, you can pick up loose paint on the palette knife and tap it, and then use the point or the edge, but usually the point, to make some, just scratch some lines in for a little bit of texture in the painting. And what I did was I decided there needed to be a few more little wave shapes. So I picked up that same rich mixture of Prussian blue and burnt sienna, and just added a few more little strokes. These strokes will also blend and move into the water that's inside the fabric of the painting. The paper is made of 100% cotton, and it will hold water. Then also using a clean brush, an oil painting brush, which I have, which is a like bristly brush. I used clean water and dried the brush with paper, and then with paper towel, and then scrubbed out some areas in the shoreline to make it appear as though it's a soft edge where the water meets the rock. So that's pretty much basically the whole thing. So after scrubbing out a little bit, what I decided to try to do was to use a razor blade to pick out some white spots for more splashing. This would have been much better if I'd had Misket and applied that at the beginning before I started painting, but no Misket, so little scrubbing there. And there it is, finished painting.